beautiful people. I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice, Volume 2, Chapter 17. Let's start now. Elizabeth, impatient to acquaint Jane with what had happened, could no longer be overcome, and at length, recovering to suppress every particular in which her sister was concerned, and passing her to be surprised, she related it to the next morning, the chief of the scene between Mr. Darcy and herself. Miss Bennet's astonishment was soon lessened by the strong sisterly partiality which made my any admiration of Elizabeth hmm, appear partially perfectly natural, and all surprise was shortly lost in other feeling. She was sorry that Mr. Darcy should not have delivered his sentiments in a manner so little suited to recommend them, but still more was she grieved for the unhappiness which her sister's refusal must have given him. His being so sure of succeeding was wrong, said she, and certainly ought not have appeared, but consider how much it must increase his disappointment. Indeed, replied Elizabeth, I am heartily sorry for him, but he has other feelings which will probably soon drive away his regard for me. You do not blame me, however, for refusing him. Blame you? Oh no. But you blame me for having spoken so warmly of Wickham. No, I do not. I do not. That you were wrong in saying that you did. But you will know when I have told you what happened the very next day. Then she spoke of the letter, repeating the whole of its content as far as they concerned George Wickham. What a stroke was this for poor Jane, who would willingly have gone through the world without believing that so much wickedness existed in the whole race of mankind as was here collected in one individual. None was Darcy's in vindication, though grateful to her feelings capable of consoling for such discovery. Most earnestly did she labor to prove the probability of error and to seek clear one without involving the other. This will not do, said Elizabeth. You never would be able to make both of them good for anything. Take your choice, but you must be satisfied with only one. There is but only such a quantity of merit between them, just enough to make good one sort of man. And of late it has been shifting for pretty much. For my part, I am inclined to believe it is all Mr. Darcy, and you shall do as you choose. It was some time, however, before a smile could be exhausted from Jane. I don't know when I have been more shocked, said she. Wickham so very bad. It is almost past belief. And poor Mr. Darcy, dear Lizzie, any consider would he must have suffered such a disappointment with the knowledge of all your ill opinion too, and having to relate such a thing of his sister. It is really this it's really too distressing. I'm sure you must feel it too. Oh no, my regret and compassion are all done away by seeing you so full of both. I know you will do him such an imply justice, and I'm growing every moment more unconcerned and indifferent. Your profusion makes me saving, and if you lament over him much longer, my heart will be as light as a feather. Poor Wickham, there's such an expression of goodness in his countenance, such an openness and gentleness in his manner. That certainly was some great mismanagement in the education of those two young men. One has got all the goodness, and the other all the appearance of it. I never thought Mr. Darcy so delic- delicious in the appearance of it as you used to do. And yet I might be uncommonly clever and taken so decided to decided a dislike to him without any reason. It is such a spur to one's genius, such an opening for a Wick to have a dislike of that kind. One may be continually abusive without saying anything just, and one cannot be always laughing at a man without now and then stumbling on something weighty. Lizzie, when you first read the letter, I'm sure you could not treat the matter as you do now. Indeed, I could not. I was uncomfortable enough. I was very uncomfortable. I may say unhappy, and with no one to speak to of what I felt, no Jane to comfort me and say that I had not been so very weak and vain and nonsensical as I knew I had. Oh, how I wanted you. How unfortunate you should always use. How unfortunate that you should have used such a very strong expression in speaking of working to Mr. Darcy. For now, they do appear wholly undeserved, certainly, but the misfortune of speaking with bitterness is the most natural coincidence of the prejudice I had been encouraging. This is one point. There is one point on which I want your advice, and I want to be told whether ought or ought to not make our coincidence in general understand Wickham's character. Miss Bentley paused a little and replied, "Surely there can be no occasion for exposing him so dreadfully. What is your own opinion?" I thought it ought not to be attempted. Mr. Darcy has not authorized me to make this communication public. On the contrary, every particular relation relative to his sister was meant to be kept as much as possible to myself, and if I endeavor to undeceive people as to the rest of his conduct, who will believe me? The general prejudice against Mr. Darcy is so violent, and which would be the death of half of the people in Meryton to attempt to place him in an amiable light. I'm not equal to where Wickham would soon be gone, and therefore it would not signify to anyone here what he really is. Sometimes, hence, it will be all found out, and then we may laugh at their stupidity in not knowing it before. At present, I will say nothing about it. You're quite right. To have his error made public might ruin him forever. He is now perhaps sorry for what he has done and anxious to re-establish a character. We must not make him desperate. The tumult, the tumult. The tumult of Elizabeth's mind was allayed by this conversation. She had got rid of two of the secrets which had weighed on her for a fortnight, and was certain of a willing listener in Jane whenever she might wish to talk again of either. But there was still something lurking behind on which Prudence forbade the disclosure. She dared not to relate the other side of Mr. Darcy's letter, or none explained to her sister how sincerely she had been valued by his friend. Here was knowledge in which no one could partake, and she was sensible that nothing less than a perfect understanding between the parties could justify her in throwing off this last incumbrance of mystery. And then said she, if that was very improbable event, if that was very improbable event should ever take place, I shall merely be able to tell what Bentley might tell in much more agreeable manner himself. The liberty of communication cannot be mine till it has lost all its value. She was now on being settled at home at leisure to observe the real estate of her sister's spirit. Jane was not happy. She still cherished a very tender affection for Bentley, having never even fancied herself in love before. Her regard had all the warmth of first attachment, and from her age and the position, greater steadiness than the first attachment often boasts, and so fervently away. Look at this up. Fervently did she value his remembrance and prefer him to every other man, that all her good sense and all her attention to the feelings of her friends were relinquished to check the indolence of those regrets which must have been injurious to her own health and their tranquility. Well, Lizzie, said Mr. Bennet one day, what is your opinion now of this sad business of Jane? For my part, I am determined never to speak of it again to anyone. I told my sister Philip so that the other day, but I cannot find out that Jane saw anything of him in London. Well, he is very undeserving young man, and I do not suppose there is the least chance in the world of her ever getting him now. There's no talk of his coming to Netherfield again in the summer, and I have inquired of everybody too who is likely to know. I do not believe that he is ever live at Netherfield anymore. Oh well, it is just as he chooses. Nobody wants him to come, though I should always say that he used my daughter extremely, though though I should always say that he used my daughter extremely ill, and if I was her, I would not have put up with it. Well, my comfort is, I am sure Jane would die of a broken heart, and then he will be sorry for what he has done. But as Elizabeth could not receive comfort from any such expectation, she made no answer. Well, Lizzie would continue her month soon afterwards. And so the Collinses lived very comfortable today. Well, I only hope it will last. And what sort of table do they only keep? Charlotte is an excellent manager, I dare say. If she is half as sharp as her mother, she's saving enough. There's nothing extra vigilant in their housekeeper, I dare say. No, nothing at all. A great deal of good management depend upon it. Yeah, they will take care not to outrun their income. They will never be distressed for money. Well, much good may it do them. And I suppose they often talk of having long born when your father is dead. They look upon it quite as their own. I dare say, whenever that happens, it is a subject which they cannot mention before me. No, it would have been strange if they did. They had. It would have been strange if they had, but I make it no doubt they often talk of it between themselves. Well, if they can be easy with an estate that is not lawfully their own, so much the better. I should be ashamed of one having one that was only entailed on me. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done reading it, and I'm so proud of myself for reading it. And I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Bye bye.